The House will stand at ease until 2 p.m. House will stand at ease until 2 p.m.
This House will come back to order. House will come back to order. Mr. Clerk, you want to ring the bell? The clerk will read the caption to a group of privilege resolutions. The clerk will read.
Honoring the life and memory of Reverend Marvin R. King, Sr. Honoring the life and memory of Jolanda Cayun King. Commending and congratulating Caitlin Caldwell. Recognizing, commending Barbara Bessemer Henry. Recognizing, commending Rashid Akbar. Honoring the legacy of Imam Majid Fahim Ali. Commending Aaron Gabriel Hartman, recognizing February 1st, 2022 is National Freedom Day. Recognizing and commending Shiona Curry. Commending the Muskogee Creek Nation, Cherokee Nation, the Band of Cherokee Indians, the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, and the historical tribes that once called Georgia their home. Commending Tiffany Adriel Creel, United Christian Schools 2022 star student. Commending Melanie Thornberry, Unity Christian Schools 2022 star teacher. Commending the Lauren Grace Baskin, Unity Christian Schools 2022 star student. Commending Mary Holcomb, Unity Christian Schools 2022 star teacher. Commending Anna Davidson, Rome High Schools 2022 star student. Commending Kelly Goldman, Rome High School's 2022 star teacher. Commending Yutong Mason Wu, Darlington School's 2022 star student. Commending Barbara Cookoff, Darlington School's 2022 star teacher. Commending Noah Wilson Crabb, Pepperell High School's 2022 star teacher. Commending Joel Knight, Pepperell High School's 2022 star student. Commending Diane Bucchio Almaris, Pepperell High School's 2022 star student. Commending Michael Bright, Pepperell High School's 2022 star teacher. Commending Shivan B. Patel, Armurchie's High School's 2022 star student. Commending Kevin Van der Horn, Armurchie's High School 2022 star teacher. And for other purposes, that completes the reading of the privilege resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none and the resolutions are adopted. All right, we're going back to the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Resolution 463.
Senate Resolution 463 by Senator Gooch, the 51st, Counselor, the 46th, Kennedy, the 18th, and others. A resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on the Electrification of Transportation. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Transportation. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chair recognizes Chairman Jaspers to present the resolution.
Mr. Speaker and members, Senate Resolution 463 will create a joint study committee on the electrification of transportation. As we all know, electric vehicles are here. We see them all around us. The one part that is lacking is the charging infrastructure in Georgia. There's $160 million coming to Georgia over the next 5 years for this infrastructure. Chairman Alan Powell did great work in this session trying to figure this out, and I applaud him and the House Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications Committee work on this very important issue. The Senate felt that we really needed a bit more work outside of the hustle and bustle of the session, so this study committee is created to carefully look at the establishing of a comprehensive plan for infrastructure, economic preparedness, transportation funding, innovation, and development of a successful electric vehicle market in our state. The study commission will have, the Joint Commission has 11 members, 4 House, 4 Senate, the DOT Commissioner, Economic Development Commissioner, and the Chair of the PSC. I hope you'll join me in supporting this important measure. I'll be glad to answer any questions, Mr. Speaker.
You have a question if you care to yield.
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Powell to your right for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that there was a lot of work put into this issue this year because the importance of allowing resale of power across the state that's not currently allowed?
Yes, sir. You worked very hard on that.
Is it not also true that if the future of this country in transportation is all electric vehicles as ordained by the U.S. Congress by 2035 or whatever it may be, that we need to get our ducks in a row so that we're not in the same situation we were with broadband?
Yes, sir, and it's especially important to me and those of us in transportation to make sure that we get our appropriate tax dollars off the sale of that power to further fund transportation.
Is it not also further true that while I normally turn a blind eye to some resolutions that come from the Senate, this is actually a pretty fair resolution?
Yes, sir, I would agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I thank everyone for a positive vote on this, and I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. We have another member that wishes to speak to the resolution, and the chair recognizes Chairman Parsons.
Thank you, Speaker. I just wanted to come up and express my appreciation for Chairman Jaspers with this and those in the Senate that created it, and my support for it. And also, by the language of the resolution, I'll be a member of the study committee, so I'm happy about that. I felt like I really needed to come up and just say that I want to acknowledge the work that not just Chairman Alan Powell did on it, but also Chairman Chokas had worked on this issue for over a year. I know the last year, this time of the session, he was working on the issue, and we had his bill and Chairman Powell's in the Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications Committee. And I want to acknowledge not the hard work that I did, because I didn't work that hard on it, but I did want to acknowledge the hard work that Vice Chairman of the committee, Joseph Gullett, and a special subcommittee that we put together. I want to acknowledge the hard work and the time they put into the issue. I think between full committee and his subcommittee, we probably put in 3.5, maybe even 4 hours of hearings on that. We heard a lot, and I think it was very useful. I am on a advisory committee to the U.S. Department of Energy on electricity, and some of these issues have been discussed a lot, and sometimes the people from the Department of Energy are in there, in particular the ones who deal with electric vehicles. And I've told them several times to their face that I think that you know, the Department of Energy is somewhat out of sync with the American people. I've told them I live in a pretty large subdivision. I don't think there's anybody there that has an electric vehicle. But I do believe it's an important issue, and it's something what I told what I instructed the subcommittee with was to, even though whether we drive electric vehicles, whether it's something we are necessarily advocates for, it's something that's coming, and the reason I know they're coming is not only because of the Department of Energy, but because that the manufacturers, many of them have already said that they now have dates when they will stop making vehicles with gasoline-powered or diesel-powered engines in them. So the time is coming. So Chairman Powell is correct. It's something we need to go ahead and do some work and get prepared for. I would just say that one thing I want to make clear up here is that what Chairman Powell and Chairman Chokus and we were working on in the committee was a free market issue, a free market of the mom and pop stores, the convenience stores, gasoline filling stations, as we used to call them, along the highways in towns and cities. If they wish to do this in a free market manner, that there's a way for them to do it. There's a way for them to sell electricity by the kilowatt hour, so it can be measured and so it can be advertised, just like you have gasoline advertised on the signs by the gasoline station. I just want to make that clarification that there is a difference. This resolution mainly deals with DOT and monies that's coming, a good bit of money that's coming from the Department of Energy for EV charging stations, I think primarily along the interstates. That's one issue, and it definitely, nothing wrong with studying at all. It needs to be studied. And I'm hoping that Chairman Jaspers and I can kind of also move into the conversation, the free market aspect of it. And with that, Speaker, I yield to Will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Stacey Evans rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that Georgia Power has installed charging stations in our state and has cross-subsidized the cost for those stations to all ratepayers, whether they have electric vehicles or not? And isn't it true that we had an opportunity to stand up and protect those ratepayers this year, and to also stand up to for our convenience store owners who just wanted a chance to compete fairly, and we didn't do so, and that I hope that we will study those issues as well.
I am sure that those issues will be studied thoroughly. They are important. What purpose does Chairman Powell rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true this may be one of the few things that me and the good lady that just spoke agree on?
Well, I knew that your IQ would catch up at some point. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Resolution 463. The ayes are 167, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman Petrie rise?
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that some of us in this chamber thought you were fixing to get a Will Smith smack up there a moment ago?
You see this guy with a gun on over here? I like my odds. I guess. Chair recognizes Chairman Carson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move this House insist on its position on House Bill 517 and appoint a committee of conference.
Chairman Carson moves that the House insist on its position in disagreeing to the Senate substitute to House Bill 517 and that a committee of conference be appointed. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 517 to be titled an act to amend Chapter 2A, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to student scholarship organizations so as to provide for the inclusion of earned interest in the calculation of minimum revenue obligations for scholarships.
With regard to Chairman Carson's motion that the House insist on its position and that a committee of conference be appointed, is there objection? There is objection. Does the gentleman move? The gentleman moves. All those in favor of the motion to insist and appoint will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Rebecca Mitchell rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the Southern Education Foundation found, after surveying student scholarship organizations and private schools, that not one could name a public school that a child using this voucher had attended in the past, and it therefore refutes the claim by a KSU study that somehow the state would save money by sending an additional $100 million a year to private schools with little or no public return on investment?
I'm sure the lady believes that assertion to be true. What purpose does Chairman Carson rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true this is a very popular program because it gives the ultimate accountability not to school boards, not the DOE, but to parents, and that the average scholarship cost to the state is a couple of $1,000s less than the QBE funding per student, thus saving the state money on its...
The gentleman so states. I'm sure he believes that to be true. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the motion. The ayes are 93, the nays are 73, and this House has insisted on its position with regard to House Bill 517. The chair appoints as a committee of conference Representative Carson of the 46th, Representative Irwin of the 28th, and Representative Dubnik of the 29th. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 625.
House Resolution 625 by Representative Gilliard of the 162nd and others, a resolution encouraging the state of Georgia to establish a Georgia Gullah Geechee Heritage Society. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Special Rules. That committee recommends this resolution be adopted.
Chair recognizes Representative Gilliard to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to the distinguished members of this body, I'm here to present House Resolution 625, the Gullah Geechee Heritage Society. In 2006, the United States established a Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Over 1 million plus residents benefited from the dialect of Gullah Geechee. We are the ones that got the going on round here. They also benefited from the food segues. Many of you have benefited from delicious meals. You've also benefited from Representative Kendrick's great decor of the beauty of fashion and all the above. And we benefited from the segues of heritage. For every elder that leaves us, a library leaves us. This will help us establish also tourism, the economic dollars that you see in Charleston, South Carolina, and others. This is a great bill, a good bill, and I ask for your favorable consideration. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Al Williams to speak to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this resolution as a proud Gullah Geechee from the coast of Georgia. And I have to mention the support of my colleague, Representative Buddy DeLoach, who represents Sapelo Island, one of the last true barrier islands of Gullah Geechees. And the Gullah Geechee culture from St. Helena, South Carolina, down the coast to Florida, has a terrific impact on the African American population, because whether you know it or not, most of who you are is because we took nothing and turned it into something. The Gullah Geechee is not a language, it is an accent, a dialect. His dialect was born out of leaving the port of no return on the west coast of Africa, speaking Swahili, coming down the Middle Passage and going to the French Caribbean and meeting French, then coming to these shores and meeting English, and combining the three languages, a sing-song dialect called Gullah Geechee was born. But out of that also was midwifery was born, as Africans trained in the art of childbirth, trained others to be midwives, where by the middle of the 20th century, the 19th century, every community had a midwife in the South. And folk were born, and many of them could brag they never lost a baby. I support this resolution because it's important for the discussion and the conversation to continue, an intricate link to who we are as Georgians and Southerners. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank you so well.
Did you have a question, Representative Kausha? Or do you have?
Thank you. Does the gentleman
yield? Do you take
yield?
a question, Representative Williams? He'll take one. Chair recognizes Representative Kausha for a question.
To my friend from the coast, I thank you for bringing this bill, but I have a very serious question. Does this bill include free language classes so that rookies like me can better understand the culture of the great coast of Georgia?
I would be glad to support that if I could have a class to better understand you.
If you both are teaching, then sign me up, okay? Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. What purpose does Representative Mallow rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that I wish my grandmother would have been alive to see this created, because she is a native of Pinpoint, Georgia, and a descendant of freed slaves from Ossabaw, Green, and Skidaway Islands?
I'm sure that you do wish that, and that's a great memory there. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of House Resolution 625, the ayes are 164. The nays are 1. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. All right, let me listen up. I got a little housekeeping announcement here. On your desk, you either have or will have momentarily a supplemental rules calendar that is the product of a Rules Committee meeting earlier today. The bills are not in your notebooks, but they will be, I'm told by the clerk's office, on the carts in the back and the carts up here to my left at the front. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take about 5 minutes. If you want to get the bills, get the bills. Chair recognizes, before we take the 5 minutes, the chairman of the House Rules Committee, Chairman Smith.
Thank you, Speaker. The Rules Committee will meet in 5 minutes for about a 2-minute Rules Committee meeting.
House will be in recess for till 2:50. Back to the rules calendar. We are on the supplemental rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 319.
Senate Bill 319 by Senator Anna Duarte of the 31st, Payne of the 54th, Thompson of the 14th, Robertson of the 29th, and others. The Entitled Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 3 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding parks, historic areas, memorials, and recreation. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Okay, I'm advised that Senate Bill 319 is in your books, in your notebooks. So that should clear that up. The chair recognizes Chairman Mandy Ballinger to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I come before you again to present Senate Bill 319, which was sponsored in the Senate by Senator Anna Duarte. Like the old saying goes, second verse, same as the first. This is the exact same bill that we voted on before, my bill, the House Bill 1358. All of y'all should be very familiar with that. It just removes the fee that citizens in the state have to pay to be able to exercise their Second Amendment rights. That's all it does. I'll be happy to answer. I'll answer two, maybe three questions. I'll answer three questions if there are any, Mr. Speaker.
Would you believe you don't have any?
That awesome. Thank you very much. I urge your favorable consideration.
Lady has yielded the well. Have a number of members that wish to be heard on the bill. I would remind everyone that opponents of bills have 30 minutes total. Proponents of bills have 30 minutes total. Chair recognizes Representative McLaurin to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All I did today for this bill for you is I wrote a haiku that I would like to share. Same bill, many times. Georgia gun owners watching. Y'all go off, I guess. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Park to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I appreciate the comments of Representative McLaurin to bring a little bit of levity to this issue because this is ridiculous. It is not difficult to get a gun in the state of Georgia. What issue or problem does this bill solve? We saw last year on March 16th a shooter get a gun and within a span of a few hours go on a mass shooting rampage. We know from multiple studies that there is a direct correlation between weaker gun laws and higher rates of gun deaths, including suicides, homicides, and accidental killings. In a moment in which so many Georgians are suffering and facing mental health crises after such a challenging period of time, why are we making it easier to get a gun in the state of Georgia? We can do better than this. It's one thing to play politics, but it's another thing to play politics and harm those that we're supposed to serve and protect. Now, I want to bring y'all's attention to line 66 of this bill, LC 3449S, that redefines lawful weapons carrier to any person who is licensed or eligible for a license. Or eligible. So you don't even need a license anymore or be approved by a court to get a gun in this state. All you got to be is eligible. This isn't who we are as a state. And we can do so much better rather than continue to play politics and pass legislation that hurts the most vulnerable among us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Roberts to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I know you've heard from me on this issue already. I don't typically give our notorious Congresswoman from the 14th any oxygen, but after I spoke from this floor on HB 1358, she took a direct shot at me on Twitter that unleashed some nasty bullies who want to intimidate me. I know y'all are just getting to know me, but I come from a long line of fiery Irish women, and we don't back down. Mothers don't back down. That's why an organization's called Moms Demand Action. And I'm standing up here today speaking again on this issue because I will not back down. Instead, I will continue to use my voice to try to convince you, my colleagues, to protect our families and law enforcement. Some of you in this room have admitted you don't want permitless carry in Georgia. I've received many emails from pro-Second Amendment and people and law enforcement officers that are opposed to this bill. Most people agree that those carrying concealed guns in public should go through a background check in order to do so. Simply put, a strong permitting system is an essential part of responsible gun ownership. With rights comes responsibility. Responsibility means doing everything we can to make sure people who carry guns, especially in public places around our families, go through the process to obtain a permit. Because Georgia doesn't require background checks by unlicensed sellers, someone can buy a gun online with no background check, and the permit may be the only background check a person ever receives. And I told y'all last time, 5,200 permits were denied in 2020, and the number one reason is criminal history or mental health history. Georgia needs more gun safety laws, not fewer. No law can stop all dangerous behavior, but why would we want to make criminals feel more comfortable carrying in public, knowing they can now freely carry, no questions asked? Give law enforcement the tools to do their job. Requiring a permit to carry a handgun in public is perfectly consistent with the Second Amendment, and no federal court has held that requiring a permit to carry a loaded concealed handgun in public violates the U.S. Constitution. And it does result in more violence. Since Arizona enacted permitless carry legislation in 2010, the annual rate of aggravated assaults committed with a firearm in the state increased by 8%. Since Alaska enacted a permitless carry bill in 2003, the state has experienced a 65% increase in the annual rate of aggravated assaults with a gun. So I beg you guys today, I know it's an election year, I know this is a priority for y'all, but for those of you who've said you know this is a really bad idea or you want to protect law enforcement and families, please have the courage to vote with me today. The mama who's going to fight for her family. Thanks.
Chair recognizes the leader of the minority caucus, Leader Beverly, to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish I had more time to look at the 22 states that have allowed this bill. As my colleague just said, data from Moms Demand Action states that have weakened their firearms permitting systems have experienced a 13 to 15% increase in violent crime rates. But I want to bring this a little bit more home. The Ahmaud Arbery killing. The killers had a gun outside their home, in their truck, due to open carry, which emboldened them to stalk and execute him. That's a good guy with a gun who thought it was okay to see what a bad guy, quote unquote, was doing. We passed this law and there will be more Ahmaud Arbery killings, I'm afraid. More George Zimmerman clowns emboldened by a concealed weapon, looking to stalk and execute people who look guilty. Mr. Speaker, I yield the will.
Gentleman's yielded the well. Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler to speak to the bill. He waives. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. What purpose does the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Wilkerson, rise?
To make a motion.
I'm not going to recognize you at this time for a motion.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes we have the chairman's time, which by rule is 20 minutes. Chair recognizes the chairman of the committee, Chairman Jay Collins, for the chairman's time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not going to take but just a few moments here today to speak about this bill. I made some comments earlier when we passed our version of this bill out of the House. This bill to me is about protecting your constitutional right to carry a firearm. And I want to correct something that I think some of the previous comments that have been made here today. I don't know that anybody in this chamber thinks those two people that murdered Ahmaud Arbery are good guys with a gun. Murder is already illegal here in our state the last time I checked, and that was murder. This has nothing to do with any case. That's a very unfortunate, and I think that's an unfair assessment to this piece of legislation here today. I would just like to say to you, as this chamber goes on in the days to come, it's going to be some late evenings, ladies and gentlemen. I would say on Monday that when we adjourn sine die, many of you are traveling on your way home. Should you have to happen to break down on the side of the road, maybe your cell phone doesn't work, maybe you've had your cell phone on all day, maybe you break down and you have to turn around and walk down the road. Maybe you didn't renew that permitless carry permit, or that you renew your carry permit. You want to protect yourself. Why should you have to go to a court and get a permit to be able to carry a gun to protect yourself? That's all this bill is about, ladies and gentlemen. That's all this bill is about. I would ask for your favorable consideration, and I'd like to yield the balance of the chairman's time to a couple of other members who wish to speak.
Chair recognizes Chairman Alan Powell for a portion of the chairman's time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. I didn't think that I would need to come up, but since there's been several comments that's been made, I'd like to say just a couple of them, and I'm going to be very brief with this. You know, I heard a couple of comments was made, and one was, are you kidding me that we're hearing this bill again? Well, quite frankly, I don't take constitutional rights as a joke or anybody to be kidded with. Then I heard someone talk about criminals. Well, criminals are going to carry weapons regardless. This law is for law-abiding citizens because the genesis of this bill and what it says is that you can carry, if you're a citizen of Georgia, if you're here in this state, you can carry a weapon if you qualify under the current concealed weapons permit statute. So if you're a law-abiding citizen, you can carry a weapon. And that's what this says. There's nothing that you can do that's going to stop a criminal. When a law-abiding citizen is restricted, criminals have no restrictions, ladies and gentlemen. And then, just as a matter of clarification, I heard the comments about the Arbery killings down on the coast. That was done with a shotgun, ladies and gentlemen. And let me tell you, right now, without any changes in law, nor has it ever been, you can carry a long gun without a permit, never have had to have a permit for that. So just something to think about. When you get into the emotions, those who want it, those who don't, those who believe in their First Amendments, Second Amendment, those who don't believe in it. At the end of the day, it's all about your rights to protect yourself. Unfortunately, weapons are used in an offensive capacity from times, but these are supposed to be for a defensive purpose. There's no excuse, and the law will tend to those people who violate the law. But in this day and time, probably more than ever, and we see it, and if you don't believe it, cut on the news every morning, whether it's whatever part of the state. There is a certain level of lawlessness, and there'll never be enough law enforcement officers to protect you nor your family. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is what this bill does. Doesn't do anything other than takes care of the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. That, Mr. Speaker, is what I've got to say on the matter, and I would certainly appreciate your favorable consideration the second time on this bill.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rich to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. I had not planned to speak to this bill, but some comments that I heard here earlier nudged me pretty strongly here to the well. First of all, I want to emphasize that this bill has nothing to do with obtaining or purchasing a gun. It has to do with whether one is required to obtain a permit to carry. Secondly, I want to emphasize the irony of people coming here to this well, speaking against this bill, that they're the same ones who voted no to Senate Bill 479 yesterday, which pertained to punishing criminals who commit a subsequent crime with a gun. I also want to point out that criminals carry guns right now. We know that. We watch the news. I've spoken with my authorities. The killings and the assaults with guns are committed by people who don't have carry permits. Why? Because they wouldn't pass a background check. Now I want to tell you about my personal story. In 2008, children were 4 and 6 years old. There was a convicted child molester who knew us personally and who was harassing me, sending me mail, sending my child by name gifts and notes and letters in the mail, and he was due to get out of prison. I, of course, wanted a gun. I had never at that time held a gun in my hands or shot one. But I can tell you right now, I was prepared to shoot that man. This mama bear, this is the only thing that gave me any power in this situation to protect my children. A gun. I couldn't have taken on that 280-pound man and saved my 2 preschoolers. The problem is that I couldn't get my carry permit before he got out of prison. So I stayed home with my children because I was terrified to go out by myself without my equalizer. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes for the remainder of the chairman's time, Chairman Ballinger. By the way, she waves. What purpose does the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Wilkerson, rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that we table Senate Bill 319.
Representative Wilkerson has moved that Senate Bill 319 be tabled. All those in favor of his motion to table will vote aye. Those opposed to tabling the bill will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The ayes are 66. The nays are 101. The motion to table has failed. The previous question has been ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. What purpose does Representative McLeod rise?
Parliamentary.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that the Constitution already gives us the right to bear arms? And isn't it true that guns don't kill people? People with guns kill people.
What purpose does Representative Rick Williams rise?
Parliamentary
State your inquiry.
Isn't it not true if I was any more pro-Second Amendment, my last name would be Winchester?
What purpose does Representative Mary Frances Williams rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that while I was moved to tears by the testimony of my my fellow House member, Representative Chairman Rich, that I wish I had the constitutional right not to constantly be surrounded by guns and be just as afraid in a different way? Thank you.
Okay, we're going to do one more here. What purpose does Representative Holly rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
It's not true, Mr. Speaker, that the main reason we can show our support for the Georgia Sheriff's Association is not by simply putting those nice tags on our car, but probably to pass legislation that puts would-be folks who would ambush them in serious situations, getting those people before a judge, and that if those officers further happen to lay down their lives in the years going ahead, they can look back to this 2022 legislature that put those persons who harmed them away from a judge, a constitutional officer that could have better given them the permit.
I'm sure that the gentleman believes that to be true. I just don't remember all of it. All right, I said one more, but now that we are going to do the final one, what purpose does Representative Hagan rise?
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that when I
Yeah,
asked
what purpose are you rising?
parliamentary inquiry?
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that when I asked my sheriff how he felt about concealed carry, that he fully supports the citizens that he represents to be able to defend themselves?
I'm sure that the lady is speaking the truth. Okay, have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 319, the ayes are 100, the nays are 67. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman Burchett rise?
Make a motion.
State your motion.
Make a motion that we immediately transmit to the governor's office. Or to the Senate. Senate, my apologies, my apologies. Can I?
I'm not going to, I can't recognize you for that because the clerk tells me we automatically immediately transmit on the last 3 days of the session. So, we had one more. What purpose does Representative Cannon rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
Checking to see if it's possible to make a motion to move on reconsideration on the next legislative day.
The lady has the right to ask for reconsideration. All those in favor of the motion for reconsideration will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the lady's motion for reconsideration. The ayes are 65, the nays are 101, and the motion has failed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 361.
Senate Bill 361 by Senator Walker, the 20th, Harbison of the 15th, Mullis the 53rd, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 to Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to income taxes so as to enact the Law Enforcement Strategic Support Act. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by Rules Committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Gaines to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Proud to present Senate Bill 361 this afternoon. This measure is an important one that will help us support our law enforcement across the state as we've seen an increase in crime. And last year we passed an important bill in this chamber and signed by the governor that ensures we don't defund the police across our state. This legislation will further that effort to make sure we're providing the resources that our law enforcement agencies need across Georgia. Senate Bill 361 is a priority of the Senate and Lieutenant Governor to provide additional resources to our law enforcement agencies, the Less Crime Act. This allows citizens to support their local agency through a tax credit program. The Less Crime Act provides a state tax credit for individual taxpayers and corporations that contribute to a local police department or sheriff's office of their choice through an affiliated law enforcement foundation. Contributions can be used for raises for law enforcement officers, training and equipment, and the cost for setting up co-responder teams, which is legislation included in House Bill 1013 and an additional Senate bill that's on our rules calendar later this afternoon. The program is capped at $75 million in total, and each foundation will be able to accept $3 million to ensure that these resources are being spread throughout the state. Individuals can contribute up to $5,000 per year through the tax credit program, and married filers can contribute $10,000. This program has significant transparency features to ensure that through the Department of Revenue to ensure transparency in the program. Let's help our law enforcement community by passing Senate Bill 361. It passed unanimously in the Senate. I'm proud to be here today to present it this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, if there are any questions, I'll take them.
You've got a lot of questions.
I'll yield for
all of them.
I'll yield for a couple.
Okay, or maybe one or more.
One or more.
Chair recognizes Representative Al Williams to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
I found some very good things in your bill. The one thing that eluded me is, with all the money, is there anything in there to pay these poorly paid deputy sheriffs?
Well, this legislation would allow for, if a sheriff's department had a foundation set up, it would allow for bonuses for deputy sheriffs and other law enforcement officers across the state.
Thank you, sir. I think that's more needed than a lot of gadgets we're requesting to pay folk a decent, livable wage who risk their lives.
Well, we certainly are grateful for our deputy sheriffs, all of our law enforcement agents, and anything we can do to support them, I think, is very important. The Speaker, I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Yasmin Neal to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
Confirming this allows for businesses to donate to these foundations as well. Is that
Corporations,
correct?
that's right, up to 75% of their tax liability.
So just confirming this also makes it where it will reduce taxpayer dollars being spent on police costs that would essentially save the taxpayers money, correct?
It would save the tax, well, it would be a credit, so their tax dollars would be, they would have the choice to use those tax dollars to support their local law enforcement agencies.
Okay, thank you. It's a good bill.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Debbie Buckner to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
I think we had a similar bill to this in committee, and we had some concerns about transparency being a problem, in that it could be misunderstood that money was given to this foundation in exchange for some kind of favor. So in lines 114 to 117, where will that the names, addresses, and donation information be housed, and who will have access to that?
The Department of
information?
Revenue. So we did, through the concerns of the committee, that was one of the changes in the House that made sure that that information wasn't publicly disclosed, because that was a concern, and that has been addressed in this measure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield for one more if there is one, and then I'll yield the well.
Let's, Chair would like for you to answer a few more questions. Chair recognizes Representative Walensky to your left for a question.
Thank you. Does the representative yield?
I will.
Just with this law enforcement foundation, can that foundation represent multiple police departments, or?
No,
can
it
you
would
explain
be
the
one
relationship?
foundation per one law enforcement agency. That was another change in the House to clarify that you could only have one foundation per law enforcement agency.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Rick Williams to your left for a question.
Paul, does the gentleman yield?
I will.
Thank you very much for this bill. And in response to Representative Al Williams' question, didn't I introduce a bill requesting that all local law enforcement, that their salaries be state tax exempt? And we want to help our local law enforcement officers, and hope we'll continue to do what we can for them.
Thank you. I'm certain that is true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Becky Evans to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
Yes. Isn't it true that during the public safety hearings on crime throughout this summer and fall, that we learned one of the problems was that many criminal jurisdictions had not entered dispensations into their systems, and many departments were behind on that issue? And is that true, Representative?
I'm sure if I'm sure it is, if you believe that to be true, that did come out of the hearings, but
yes. And is my question to you is will these donations, will law enforcement be able to use that to supplement their personnel so that they can take care of these database requirements?
So the program will allow for the three qualified expenditures that I mentioned, which would be raises, because it is a year-to-year program, so you wouldn't know from any given year how much money is going to be coming in the following year. So you wouldn't want to base a salary on that, because you're not guaranteed that same amount the following year. So it would be allowed for bonuses, which up to 2 per year, equipment, training, and then the co-responder program. So that's the qualified expenditures in the program.
All right, thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Anulowicz to your left for a question.
Thank you. Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
My question has to do, I know with civil asset forfeiture, for example, there have been many incidents of abuse, arguably, with that. You've had sheriffs buying souped up Dodge Chargers and the like. We have a process in place in the state for more accountability and transparency. What's going to keep these funds from being spent on things like souped up Dodge Chargers?
Well, I think that the language in the bill makes it clear what the qualified expenditures are, and I believe that, again, when you're limiting $3 million per single agency, that law enforcement agencies will use the money wisely and in ways that will help their communities stay safe.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin to your right for a question.
Gentleman yield.
I will.
I don't mean to be pulling your string.
No.
I have a serious question. We made some changes to this bill when it goes back, and I guess I have a question. It's $3 million per foundation.
Correct.
Regardless of the size of the law enforcement agency. Isn't that true?
That is true.
And I understand we're trying to be equal, but isn't it also true that, like here in Metro Atlanta, you could have a Fulton County Sheriff, a Fulton County Marshal, an Atlanta Police Department, a Fulton County Police Department, and right here within 40 miles of the Capitol, we could use $12 million of the 75.
Each agency would have the opportunity to raise $3 million. The cap would open at the same time, and so obviously would want agencies across the state and everyone would have equal access to apply for those funds.
Certainly, and I mean this in a positive way, if the gentleman would bear with me and to do that. But isn't it true also in the hearing we heard from the senator carrying the bill, Senator Walker, that part of this was to help our smaller police agencies? That
is true, and that's part of the reason why the House lowered the cap from $5 million to $3 million, which I think is a good positive change to the bill to make sure that more law enforcement agencies have access to the $75 million cap.
So I would go here then and say, I have two, if you would, if you'd allow me this one, and then I have a final one. Wouldn't it be, if this goes over and comes back to us, would it be reasonable to, in the discussions with the Senate, further perfecting this bill, to maybe put a size on it so that a large metropolitan area doesn't have the same amount, can't eat a larger amount in a certain area to take it away from our smaller departments?
If there's language available, whether it's in this bill or we could come back next year and look at that change, I certainly think that's something to consider.
The last technical question I would ask, I know there's an individual and a limit for a married couple and the corporate limits. Can that be split amongst different foundations? So could I, as an individual, as long as I didn't exceed the 5,000, could I split that to agency A, B, C, D, $1,000 each? Does the bill allow for that?
That's my understanding, that you would be able to give up to $5,000, but you could do $1,000 to 5 different agencies.
Thanks, gentlemen.
I'm ready to keep on going.
Okay. Chair recognizes Chairman Chokas to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
Isn't it true that some of the issues that face rural Georgia are crime, and that we don't have as large a tax base in rural Georgia to be able to support law enforcement as much as we would like to? And wouldn't this allow corporations within those communities to be able to give to their local law enforcement officers organizations?
That's right.
That would make the community better, but also improve our opportunities for economic development?
Absolutely. No, I think it's an important measure that will help law enforcement agencies across the state, and particularly in rural Georgia, to provide that necessary funding.
Super.
Thank you for the question.
Great bill. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Gravely to your right for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
I have a serious question on line 19 of the bill. For instance, where it says law enforcement foundation means any domestic nonprofit corporation with the sole function of supporting one local law enforcement unit through a formal relationship recognized by such local law enforcement unit. So in Paulding County, we have an organization called Paulding Public Safety Appreciation, which is a nonprofit. It's been in operation for the last 10 years. But if you go down further, so does the bill allow for this particular nonprofit?
My understanding is if there's an agreement between the local law enforcement agency and that nonprofit, it could be the foundation.
So that foundation,
but that law enforcement agency would have to agree. That they would have to agree.
Agree to do
that. That's
that.
right, because you can only have one per law enforcement agency.
Okay, so
one foundation.
One foundation in my community that could agree or create
with
this formal relationship with the sheriff's office.
That's right.
If the sheriff's office chose one nonprofit in the community, could, let's say, the Hiram Police Department choose that same one, or would they have to choose another one?
I believe they could use the same one, or they could do separate. That's my understanding. Okay. But one law enforcement agency could only be attached to one foundation.
Okay.
If that answers the question.
One further question, if you'll yield.
Sure.
On line 35, a qualified expenditure.
I'm just proud that you're able to, read through the bill.
Well, listen. That's it. I've been known to pull out a funny every now and then.
I'm waiting for your monthly, zinger on the floor. So
Yeah. If you'll
I
tell
know
me,
Senator McLaurin has them every day, but
He
you usually
does.
kind of
He
hold them out.
does. But before we get to that, if you'll tell me where you buy your beard dye, I'll buy the same one, and we'll have the same.
That's a top secret.
Going forward with qualified expenditure means expenditures made by, okay, for salary supplements, are you saying that this nonprofit could provide a salary supplement to the sheriff's office under this agreed upon relationship?
Correct. It could not be a salary, but it could be a bonus salary supplement. It's written in the bill up to 2 times per year. And again, the goal there is in terms of salaries, you don't want to have an expenditure that's going to be year after year when you don't know how much money is going to be coming in from the foundation. So you want to make sure that you're not having recurring expenses, but you could do raises or
Okay.
bonuses, excuse me.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Tyler Paul Smith for a question to your right. And please, Representative, speak where I can understand what you're saying.
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
If I could direct your attention to lines 153 through 157, you'll find on page 7 of the bill.
Okay.
Does the gentleman agree that this is a good response to the representative from
It is, yeah.
the Cobb County area that asked about the Dodge Chargers and such that
How
this
they,
provides?
that's right. They have to disclose how they're spending and how much money they're taking in. That's right.
Yes, sir. And will the gentleman further yield?
I will.
Would a writ of mandamus not lie if they were trying to buy them souped-up Dodge Chargers with this funding?
I would trust my lawyer friend on that one.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a professor.
Well, I appreciate the time that the body's given us, and I'll ask for the House's favorable consideration and yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? The chair hears none. The Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 361. The ayes are 153, the nays are 5. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. I am pleased to announce the State Senate has just passed House Bill 1013. $54 to nothing. And I've still got to come back over here. So you get to vote for it again. And we'll have it printed soon, and we'll take care of that. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 403.
Senate Bill 403 by Senator Watson the first, Albers the 56th, Cowser the 46th, Robertson the 29th, and others. Be entitled Act to amend Title 37 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to mental health, so as to enact the Georgia Behavioral Health and Peace Officer Co-Responder Act. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 403.
Senate Bill 403 by Senator Watson.
Chair recognizes Chairman Cooper to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This truly is a historic day, and I am proud to bring you Senate Bill 403, better known as the Co-Responder Bill. One of the problems that we have with people that have mental illness is that to get them into care, they have to commit a crime, usually. And that's why our sheriff's facilities and our prisons are full of people that have mental illnesses. And one of the things that we have wanted to do as we've worked on this major mental health bill is to change that. How terrible to have a true mental illness, to be treated, to get better, and then face having to do with and have to be in our court system. So they have developed the co-responder bill. What this means is that our police, if they want to, in the individual areas that they represent, or our sheriffs can set up on their own a co-responder model, or they can work with our CSBs. And what they do is they get training on how to deal with people with behavior problems, and then they answer the calls that are deemed to be those of people in mental crisis. You know, usually, and what they do is, usually the police will go out, and they're the first responders. And if it looks like this is a mental health crisis, they will call the co-responder team. What happens then is that a trained policeman, a trained sheriff, will join with a trained mental health worker. Could be a psychiatrist if somebody's, fixing to jump off a bridge, or it could be a social worker. And they will then go and relieve the police or the sheriffs that got there first and try to de-escalate the situation using good mental behavior techniques and be able to get the person to calm down or to respond in a positive way, and to then decide where they need to go to get the proper care without being charged with a crime. So, we've got great examples of this down in the Savannah area in Chatham County. They have put this into action, and the number of arrests have gone from 90% to 10%. One of the other 9 areas that have set up these co-responder teams went from 208 arrests to 2 arrests. This is the way that we should be dealing with our mental health people. Here again, no one is requiring police to do this, but hopefully they will work with our CSBs across our state, all 23 of them, and set up these co-responder units. So this is what it does, and I will be glad, Mr. Speaker, to answer any questions if I have them. If not, I will yield the well and ask for your positive vote on Senate Bill 403.
All right, we have two members that wish to be heard on the bill. The chair recognizes Representative Cannon to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm rising in support of Senate Bill 403. I wanted to make sure that everyone understands the main reason that many of us are supporting this is because it does finally define behavioral health co-responder, something we've been wanting to do for a while. This is a person who can respond to a 911 call and make the choice whether or not to arrest someone, and that person who is going through a mental health episode. We want to be clear that we believe this will help to actually save Georgia taxpayer dollars, because we will reduce the number of people with mental health episodes in our prisons. And just locally, I want to speak to what Atlanta and Fulton County has done. We've had pre-arrest diversion programs which have been able to help co-responders, even though they have not been able to be defined by the state code, to do this great work of determining if someone needs to be incarcerated or not. So I'm standing in support. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Representative Neal to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to speak in support of Senate Bill 403. As a former police officer who has been involved in a variety of emergency situations, to include responding to a number of mental health 911 calls, I understand the need for this bill. As a former officer, former detective who, like many, are, and now, with the passage of 1013 and now Senate Bill 403, we did not have this bill, and we did not have proper support in the mental health space to assist us on 911 calls. This changes everything. In conjunction with House Bill 1013, this changes everything. So for me, I've met with my chiefs in my county, and now we do have this program as of last year. And across the state, the individual cities or counties who have implemented this thus far has demonstrated wild success. So I urge you to support Senate Bill 403 for the betterment of our citizens and for the betterment of our state. Thank you, and I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Chairman Dubnik rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that over the past 3 years, members of the Gainesville and Hall County community, through public and private partnerships, have worked to seek and secure grant funding to put a mental health worker and clinician on staff with the Gainesville Police Department, and that the success that they are seeing in our community is overwhelming? And I applaud this House for the passage of Senate Bill 403.
If the gentleman so states, I know he's a very knowledgeable about his community and the issue. What purpose does Representative Sharper rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true in the over 30 years that I've been in the medical field and been on some of these scenes where we have law enforcement and mental health patients that this is going to be a great bill? It is something that we needed for a long time. Instead of having these people placed in jail or even at the ER for hours and hours, they will be in a program like this. They will have possibly facilities that they can go to and also be taken care of. And is it true that we had some great presentations from some places across Georgia that have some type of model like this already set up and they're already seeing great benefits? Thank you.
Okay. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 403. The ayes are 165, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 374.
Senate Bill 374 by Senator Tillery, the 19th, Huffstetler, the 52nd, Burke of the 11th, and Kennedy, the 18th, be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 4, Chapter 12 of Title 45 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to the Georgia Data Analytics Center so as to provide for definitions. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dempsey to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a great day in the Georgia House and the Georgia Senate, for the moment at least. Let's celebrate that for sure. I bring to you Senate Bill 374. There are two measures in this, actually. The first requires that all state agency fees be paid into the state treasury on a monthly basis. It requires a reporting mechanism to increase transparency of all funds collected, that report be on August 1st annually to the OPB, the House and Senate budget offices. The second part of the bill deals with a measure that some of you were here when we passed HB 197 back in 2019 to establish in the Office of Planning and Budget the Georgia Data Analytics Center to make sure that agency information can be transferred between one another. This measure, though, will allow GDAC to be implanted into each and every state agency to allow for that cooperation and to receive or access data, necessary data. Certain federal rules and regulations require that state entities be designated as holders of certain data. For an example, DCH is the holder of Medicaid data. But if a child is in DFACS custody and we're trying to determine all those assessments, DHS has to run diagnostic tests, sometimes those exact mechanisms that are already run by DCH and by Medicaid. Because DHS doesn't have the ability to see the DCH assessments. This bill uses GDAC as a conduit to meet federal rules and regs and still share information so Georgia taxpayers aren't dealing with duplicative payments and Georgia citizens aren't subjected to unnecessary duplicative assessments. This disclosure and release of any confidential or privileged information is protected and maintained throughout. Mr. Speaker, that is what the bill does. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to take them or step away. I know we have another speaker that wishes to speak to the bill as well.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable support.
Chair recognizes the Majority Caucus Whip, Representative Hatchett, to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the hour's late, so I'm going to be very brief. Section 1 and 2 are about the collection of fees by all the different agencies and departments of our state. Back in 2006, the state auditor did an audit of all these fees that are collected across our government and found that hundreds and hundreds were either not adequate, shouldn't be being done, we're collecting fees for the same thing at different rates. So what this does is it makes sure that all of these fees, unless they're otherwise designated, they come to the general fund, the general treasury. That way we can do our constitutional responsibility with the budget and make sure that we are controlling and making sure where all these appropriations are made. Thank you, and that's what Section 1 and 2 do.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Bill 374. The ayes are 163, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 379.
Senate Bill 379 by Senator Strickland of the 17th, Dugan of the 30th, Thompson of the 14th, Miller of the 49th, and others, be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4, Title 20, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to vocational, technical, and adult education, so as to provide for the State Board of the Technical College System of Georgia to establish a program to promote the creation and expansion of registered apprenticeship programs. This bill I refer to the Committee on Higher Education. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this, the caption speaks for this bill. This allows the TCSG to create a program in conjunction with the U.S. Department of Labor to encourage apprenticeships here in Georgia. It has various definitions that tie back to the U.S. Department of Labor to ensure that all of the participants are abiding by state and federal law regards to employment and ability to work in the United States. It lets the state board create a list of high demand workforce jobs that will be part of this. It limits the amount to be spent on each internship at $10,000, and there is in the current budget a bit over $1 million to support this. So this would help at least 100 people get started into an internship, I should say apprenticeship program, to help Georgians get to work in trades or high demand areas. With that, Mr. Speaker, if there are technical questions about the bill, I would answer them and ask the House's favorable consideration on Senate Bill 379.
Well, I can't judge if they're technical or not. I just call on them, okay?
Yes, sir. I'll assume they're good ones.
Chair recognizes Chairman Petrie to your left for a question.
My other left.
Your other
yes,
left.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
This bill refers to employer sponsors. Does that include, I hope, also our trade unions?
It can. The trade unions have ongoing apprenticeship programs. The way the program is set up, there would need to be a contract with an employer, but how the monies are then distributed to that apprentice through that employer, they could work an agreement with a trade union, yes.
Chair recognizes Representative Bentley to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a gentleman yield.
I do.
Mr. Chairman, is it not true on lines 30 of this bill, it states any entity operating an apprenticeship program and funeral homes operate apprenticeship programs? Is that not true, Mr. Chairman?
If the lady states they operate them, I'm sure you're familiar with that business.
And is it not further true, Mr. Chairman, that I am going to support this bill, but I do want this body to be aware that funeral homes do require students to be a part of an apprenticeship program for over 3,000 hours, and those students do not get paid to participate in that apprenticeship program. Is that not further true, Mr. Chairman?
You have made that you had made the chair of the committee when we were in committee aware of that and spoke highly of that. And I would say, and I don't mean to be joking where I say clearly that field is a high demand field. That
Yes,
we need people in that business, and that the training requirements are so intense. I would think they could be a part of this high demand workforce. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, if there are any other questions, I'll try to catch them off the floor.
No further questions.
Thank you very much. I ask favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 379. The ayes are 166, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. We're going to take a break till 4:30. This house will be on break until 4:30 p.m. This House will come back to order. House will come back to order. Mr. Clerk, ring the bell. Caleb? Clerk will read the caption to a group of privilege resolutions.
Recognizing salience and the divergence of the current understanding between Cherokee County and the cities of Woodstock, Canton, Holly Springs, Ball Ground, and Waleska as to annexation, growth, and boundary agreements. Recognizing April 1, 2022 as South Fulton Constituents Day at the State Capitol. Recognizing and commending Derek Bozeman. Commending Monica Ellis. Recognizing and commending Benjamin Benji Hood. Congratulating the Atlanta Jamaican Association on the grand occasion of its 45th anniversary, and recognizing and commending Rumana Habib, CEO of Pakistani American Community of Atlanta, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privilege resolution.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. Chair recognizes Chairman Werkheiser for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House disagree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1425.
Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 1425 to be entitled an act to amend Article 9 of Chapter 12 of Title 16 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to access to medical cannabis, so as to authorize the governor to issue initial Class 1 and Class 2 production licenses for a limited period of time.
Chair recognizes Chairman Werkheiser to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House sent over a well thought out measure on this, and the Senate reverted back to their bill. And so I'm asking that this House disagree with me on this motion. That we agree to disagree.
Agree with you to disagree with the Senate, right? On Chairman Werkheiser's motion that the House disagree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1425, is there any objection? Chair hears none, and this House has disagreed. Chair recognizes Chairman Rhodes. For a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute of House Bill 1147.
Chairman Rhodes has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1147. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 1147 to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 27 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to wildlife generally, so as to authorize the hunting and trapping of raccoons and opossum year-round.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rhodes to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This was a great bill when it left here, and it's a great bill coming back. The only thing that changed is we will be able to hunt and trap raccoons and possums year-round on private property only. WMAs and all state lands owned by the state and leased by the state will stay just the way they are. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Wait just a minute. Wait, whoa. Representative Al Williams, do you bless this motion?
Bless you, my chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you for the blessings.
On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1147, all those in favor of the motion will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 155, the nays are 10. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1147. What purpose does Chairman Newton rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that SB 342 be moved from the Health and Human Services Committee to the Committee on Access to Quality Health Care. Both chairmen are in agreement.
Chairman Newton has moved that Senate Bill 342 be moved from the Health and Human... What purpose does Chairman Cooper rise?
Mr. Speaker, I didn't agree to that movement.
I think y'all might ought to have a discussion. You want to withdraw your motion for now?
I withdraw my motion.
Motion is withdrawn. What purpose does Chairman Hitchens rise?
Make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that the rules be suspended so the bill can be read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Chairman Hitchens has moved that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee. Clerk will read the caption.
A resolution creating the House Study Committee on Georgia Driving under the Influence Law.
On the gentleman's motion, is there objection? Chair hears no objection. It is so ordered. It will be assigned to the Judiciary Committee. All right, we have some local bills that have come over from the Senate. Chair will ask for unanimous consent that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow these bills to be read for the first time and assigned to committee. Is there any objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. They will all be assigned to intergovernmental coordination. Chair recognizes Chairman Todd Jones for a motion.
Sorry for the delay, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to HB 1013.
Chairman Jones has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1013. The clerk will read the caption.
To be entitled an act to amend Titles 15, 20, 31, 33, 37, 45, 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated related courts, education, health, insurance, mental health, public officers, and employees' social services respectively, so as to implement the recommendations of the Georgia Behavioral Health Reform and Innovation Commission.
Chair recognizes Chairman Jones to explain the Senate substitute.
Good afternoon, colleagues. The second time in my 6 sessions that I'm speechless. The other time was when I was first presenting the bill with Chairman Oliver. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Speaker for the opportunity to work with Chairman Oliver to be able to pilot or co-pilot this bill. I'd also like to thank the Senate and the work that they did with us and the collaboration. We knew that it would be a process, and the process allowed us to be able to really refine the bill. And I think what you have in front of you now, all 70 some odd pages on your desk, I think really represents, I think, a great step forward in mental health and substance abuse for our great state. I'd like to just highlight some of the things for you that I think you'll find very important. First and foremost, we can say emphatically that upon the passage of this and the signing by the governor, that the state of Georgia has parity. Thank you. This application is to private insurers. This application is to the State Health Benefit Plan, and it is also to Medicaid and Peach Care. I think that's important because hopefully we will now see that a disease of the mind is going to be treated equally as a disease of the body, and we hope that that is something that every citizen, all 10.7 million citizens, not just appreciate, but are able to finally get the help that they need. MLR, medical loss ratio, also known as medical spend ratio, Dr. Newton, and that's so important. That has remained in the bill at 85% or whatever is contracted for higher. Workforce development has remained in primarily with a key around cancelable loans. Several of you have asked me, why is this so important? Just remember this statistic. 59 out of 159 counties in our state do not have a mental health or behavioral health specialist. It is hard to implement parity, and it is hard to execute to the MLR standards if you do not have the professionals to be able to help our citizens around mental health and also around substance abuse. Co-responder, thank you for the unanimous support of SB 403, but the funding mechanism for co-responders is in this bill, and I would like to thank the entire Appropriations Committee from the House for that. Finally, there is proper reporting and also the accountability courts, and you'll see that in sections 5 and section 6. This is important because of the fact that we've seen the success that the accountability courts have had in other areas, and we believe that same application across our entire state will be so important in terms of our ability to be able to really assist mental health and also substance abuse patients. And finally, the reporting. If you don't report on it, you don't know what's happening, you don't know the standards. So we were able to refine with our Senate colleagues the amount of reports, the data that will be collected, so that we will have a better understanding in terms of where we have actually improved, where we haven't improved, where we're seeing parity, where we're seeing proper MLR, et cetera. And I think that is something that as members of the General Assembly, you'll appreciate that level of accountability. Mr. Speaker, that is essentially the very quick summary of the substitute, and I would ask for the body's favorable consideration. Thank you.
On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1013, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 166, the nays are 0. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1013. If y'all will indulge me just for a moment, can't let this moment pass without saying just a few things. First off, today, hope won. Countless Georgians will know that we have heard their despair and frustration. We have set Georgia on a path to lifting up and reforming a failed mental health care system. And once again, this House has led. We are reminded again today that truth is a powerful force. Many people are responsible for today. Chairman Mary Margaret Oliver and Chairman Todd Jones have, through their work, enabled me to see something I have not seen like this before. I saw an R and a D disappear and a Georgian take its place. I saw Chairman Sharon Cooper remind me again what an amazing committee chair she is. I even had the courage to go to her committee and testify. So everybody should do it once in their life, and I've done mine. I want to thank Senator Ben Watson, Senator Dean Burke, and Senator Brian Strickland from the Senate, who devoted much time and put aside our chamber rivalry to make choices that we had to make. The members of the Georgia Behavioral Health Reform and Innovation Committee. 2 of those members are in this body, Chairman Oliver and Chairman Don Hogan. Most especially, I want to thank a former member of this body and the commission chair, former Representative Kevin Tanner. Representative Tanner, it was his vision of a new, innovative way to approach mental health care, which inspired me, and his leadership on this issue over the past 2 years has been extraordinary. And finally, and last only because I may not get through this, a lady who has a beautiful heart and a giving spirit, who takes the problems of those who are hurting to heart and refuses to believe that there is no path to help. She is my protector, my defender, my rock to lean on, and the light of my life. And had it not been for her, I probably would not have invested as much as I have into this bill. I know I wouldn't have. So I love Cherie Ralston for these and for so many other reasons. Come here, Ruby. Members of this House, you have given this bill a huge push, and you can be very proud today. Few of you will ever cast a vote as consequential as your vote to pass House Bill 1013, and today it was you who gave hope to many, many Georgians. God bless you, and thank you for this bill.
The chair recognizes Chairman Setzler for a motion.
Madam Speaker, I want to make a motion for unanimous consent to move Senate Bill 53 from the Committee on Science, Technology to Government Fiscal Affairs and Oversight.
The chairman has moved that Senate Bill 53 be moved from Science and Technology to Budget and Fiscal Affairs. Is there objection? Is there objection? The chair hears none, and so moved. The chair would ask the body to help the chair in recognizing Representative and Chairman Matt Dubnik on his birthday today. The chair would also like to recognize another special birthday, Representative Pedro Merritt. The House will not be in session tomorrow, and so the chair would also like to recognize another special birthday tomorrow, Representative Martin Montagham. If you have an announcement, make your way to the front if you have an announcement. Chair recognizes Chairman Parsons for an announcement.
Thank you, Speaker. Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunication will meet right upon adjournment as soon as we can get over there to Coverdale Legislative Office Building 506. We have one measure and we can be in and out as quickly as you want to make it. So need you over there. Coverdale Building 506 as soon as we can get over there on one measure. Thank you. Thank you, Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative McLean for an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Please join us tomorrow for our last Working Family Caucus Zoom meeting. It'll be Thursday at 12 o'clock. I know, and you can also go by room 307 to pick up your food and lunch. It'll be hybrid tomorrow, so it'll be Zoom, and we'll be in the room, and we'll also be honoring Dean Smiley. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Anulowicz for an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If any of y'all from down Vidalia Way knew Hugh McNatt, you know, he passed last summer, but his legacy lives on through the bird supper that is tonight. You all received an invitation. There will be gumbo, there will be quail, there will be biscuits, there will be sorghum syrup. It is a great event. It's 6:30. It's at the Trolley Barn. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Mathiak for an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We will have a state planning and community affairs meeting bright and early, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, 5:06. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Davis for an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We invite you to attend a press conference tomorrow at 9 a.m. on the South Step concerning 3 deserts, which are credit and banking desert, pharmacy desert, and food deserts. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Newton for an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Subcommittee on Tax Revision will meet on adjournment in 4:03. Our subcommittee will meet then. And tomorrow morning, the Special Committee on Access to Quality Health Care will meet at 10 a.m.
Chair recognizes Chairman Collins for an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee will meet tomorrow from 10 to 12, 406 CLOB. We've got some important pieces of legislation we're going to be taking up. Look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight for an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know it's been a late day, but a good day. Remind you that the Sportsman's Caucus shooting event is actually started a few minutes ago at Stoddard's Range and Guns. That's Midtown, and I hope we'll all get over there and enjoy and exercise our Second Amendment right.
Chair recognizes Chairman Mitchell for an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Democratic Caucus will not meet tomorrow morning, as been previously noticed to you. They will meet Friday morning. Please expect information regarding that meeting. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rich for an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Majority Caucus will meet tomorrow at 4 p.m. in room 403.
The House Majority Leader is now recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Friday, the first day of April, 2022.
On the motion of the Majority Leader that this House stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Friday, April 1, all those in favor will say aye, and all those opposed will say no. The ayes clearly have it, and this House is now adjourned until Friday.